That's your money saying it's time for a McDonald's run. Because with new McValue at McDonald's, you get more than you expect. Like buy a 6-piece McNuggets and add a McChicken for just $1. Your money says let's go. Get more than you expect with new McValue. Prices and participation may vary. Valid for item of equal or lesser value.
Today we welcome one of America's space heroes, Senator and astronaut John Glenn, to discuss the wonders of Space Day. Welcome to the program, Senator Glenn.
Thank you much. Glad to be with you today.
Well, it's a privilege and a very high honor today.
You'll have to apologize. I apologize in the start. My voice sounds like Kermit the Frog today. I think we got too much pollen here in Washington at the moment.
Well, I think you're a busy man today, and we appreciate, again, your time spent on this wonderful subject. Senator, if I may start off the program today, what in your mind is the significance of Space Day?
Well, main thing is to, the kids have all grown up these days with Star Trek and interest in space, and they've never known a time when space wasn't there, and a lot of them are interested in this. And one of the things that we really need, of course, is a lot of emphasis on math and science these days. We've been, in effect, in some respects, we're getting behind the rest of the world in our elementary and high schools in math and science. And we need to pep that up, or it doesn't look good for the United States for the long-term future. And so this is a way of creating some interest here, and what Space Day does as a focal point is bring a lot of kids in with the projects they've had in schools and their teachers in areas of space, in areas of space travel, or travel within our own atmosphere, or also using other sources of power to sustain flight. And they've had projects in those three areas this year, and the kids came in and received their awards and their recognition here today. So it's a way of taking this day and focusing on math and science and space, and creating what I think is a good environment for these kids for the future.
Well, that's awesome encouragement, Senator. And continuing on with that theme, would like to ask you this. What can parents and children do to actually get involved together in this wonderful event called Space Day?
Well, I think the main thing is to discuss it with your kids. If you're a parent, talk to your kids about it, and let them know that you're interested in it, and you're interested in their knowledge of math and science. That's going to be a big factor in the future. You know, much of every bit of progress that's been made since human race has been around has been made because somebody was curious about how to do things differently, or how can we learn something new that will alter the future. And if we can encourage our kids to have that same kind of curiosity that the Wright brothers had, or that the astronauts sort of look at now with all the research they're doing, or the sort of the focal point of some of that now, then that's good for the kids for the future. And the more they can be inquisitive, curious people as they grow up, the better off we are.
Senator, what areas of the educational curriculum do you feel is important, that is, for students to concentrate on if they'd like to become scientists and astronauts?
Well, obviously the math is at the base of most science, and not all of it, of course. There are theories come out, and you don't need math to be knowledgeable in science, but to really advance science and really be a researcher, you need a good base in math. And we got to get away from this old idea, too, that girls can't learn math. Just as an example, I get a big kick out of that one because some of the sharpest mathematicians I've known were women, and too many of the girls want to turn off when it comes to science, and yet they make some of the best scientists if they get the training.
I would agree with you. Shifting gears as we move to the future of the American space program and the International Space Program, what would you say as far as a manned mission to the planet Mars? First of all, I'm sure you would love to be a part of that, but when do you feel simply we as mankind may be actually landing on the surface of Mars?
Well, this may surprise you a little because I don't think a Mars landing is in the offing for some time. We have a lot yet to learn before we go to Mars. Right now, with the current technology, we could go to Mars, but it would be a trip of about 8 to 8.5 months probably, one way, same time coming back. It's a long ways out there. And what time you'd spend out there, 2 or 3 months or 4 months, it means that you're dedicating about taking about a 2-year time period to make the whole trip, or close to it. Now, we don't have that kind of experience in space yet, in either the systems in space to last that long, or the supplies to take along that would last for a 2-year period, nor just the experience with the human body in space for that lengthy period of time.
Right.
And we need to do more of that. That brings back to the important, before we can go to Mars, I think we need to get some of that kind of experience on the International Space Station. And it brings up the importance then of the work that Admiral Gaiman is doing now, trying to get the space shuttle going again, because that's how we then take up the last parts of construction material to complete the space station. and then get on with the research on that to continue, not just limited to the 2-week time period that is possible on the shuttle, but now we can do research on continuing basis over a longer period of time, and that's where we really start learning much more and get the kind of experience that will enable us then someday later to go to Mars, I think.
Senator, Dr. Sky, of course, covers the realms of astronomy, space, aviation, and weather as a NASA JPL ambassador for education, and I'm proud of that title. But certainly a man of your stature and experience, many questions come up, and this particular question. Take us back to February 20th, 1962, as you became, of course, the first American to successfully orbit the Earth and return. Tell us briefly, what was that experience like? Because on this program, I've also had the honor of speaking with Wally Schirra, one of your early, I'm sure, astronaut partners, as one of the original Mercury 7 astronauts. Tell us your experience on that date as you were to be launched into space and that whole historical event.
Well, back in those days, we hadn't orbited yet. I did the first orbital flight for this country, and so there were lots of things we did not know. And for instance, some of the doctors at that time, we didn't know what would happen to the human body in space, what the reaction would be. And there were some doctors at that time predicted that your eyes, for instance, would change shape when you're in space for several hours. Your eyes would no longer need to be supported by the structure under the eye, and that your eyes are sort of malleable, flexible material. And your eyes might change shape and your vision would change. And so I actually had a little vision chart on the top of the instrument panel I was to read every 20 minutes during flight. And if my vision was going bad, we even had emergency procedure of re-entry to get back in. Now that turned out to be a non-problem, and eyes did not change in space. Another one was they were afraid, they thought that maybe some of the fluid in the inner ear, when it might more randomly move about in 0G than it does here on Earth in a 1G environment, that might cause nausea and vertigo to the point where you wouldn't be able to function. And so things like that were the things that we were trying to determine back in those days. Now, what's happened through the years, of course, before I went up a second time in 1998, we'd had 130-some manned flights. And so and the emphasis of the whole program had shifted not to just whether we could do it or not, but has shifted to research, basic fundamental research up there. And we had, on the flight in 98, we had 83 different research projects on that one flight. And on Columbia, it had 90 research areas on that particular flight. So the whole emphasis of the program has shifted. And, of course, we had a lot more experience, and so we knew a lot more about launching and effects of the human body. And the purpose, though, has changed from just the question of whether we can do this or not. The emphasis now is on basic fundamental research that benefits, let me emphasize this, that benefits everybody right here on Earth. It's not just to make new systems for going deeper into space. We do experiments with biology and plants, plant growth that's different up there, and metallurgical studies, alloys that left to melt and harden in space come out with a different molecular alignment and different potential uses than anything we can do here on Earth, and cancer studies, and just a whole host of things that are a benefit here on Earth. And that's what I like to stress about the importance of this research. It's for benefit of everybody right here.
This episode is brought to you by Indeed. When your computer breaks, you don't wait for it to magically start working again. You fix the problem. So why wait to hire the people your company desperately needs? Use Indeed's sponsored jobs to hire top talent fast. And even better, you only pay for results. There's no need to wait. Speed up your hiring with a $75 sponsored job credit at Indeed.com/podcast. Terms and conditions apply.
Senator, a final comment or so as we close this rather short interview, but we certainly appreciate your time again talking to us about the wonders and values of Space Day and this international celebration to the sky. You've always been a hero of mine as a young boy growing up in the early 1960s. I remember vividly reading everything I could about your missions to space. But briefly, if you can tell us, who of the people that you looked at in the world, who would you consider to be a hero or two of yours when you were growing up to go to space?
Oh, no one person. I never had any one. There were different traits I admired in different people, I guess, and I still feel that way today. back in those days, I looked at Lindbergh and I thought, gee, he really stuck to this, and I thought that was great. I hoped that I could fly sometime. We didn't have much money when I was a kid, and I didn't know that I'd ever be able to fly myself, but was able to later on. You look at people of the past, of Lincoln and people like that, who, for a particular reason, you admired very much. And then I had a person that sort of altered my life was one of my high school teachers, who wasn't in the science area, as a matter of fact. He used to teach a course called civics, which was a study of government and politics. And he just made it come alive. He was such a great teacher, and I used to look forward to his classes. And out of that came my interest in government and politics that I got into later in life. And so they're different people, have different characteristics, or affected us differently at different times in my life. And I admire those people. I can think of different teachers, and my dad, of course, and people like that whom I admired for different reasons. So I've never had any one person as a role model. I said that I want to grow up and be just like X, whoever that person might be.
Senator, I do some volunteer work, as many people do around the country, with the Boy Scouts of America. And if I'm correct, you yourself come from the very interesting, Hall of Fame with the Boy Scouts. Tell us briefly a little story about the scouting and its value here in America.
Well, I like the scouting movement, like it very much. And one reason I like it is that I think it puts responsibility where it should be. That scout oath. Incidentally, this is a mistake that I was a scout. I was never a scout.
Didn't know that.
I think I was.
I always thought you were.
No, my son was an Eagle Scout later on, but when I was growing up, we didn't have a scout troop in New Concord, the little town where I grew up, and we wanted something like that, and so a bunch of kids, we got together ourselves and formed a little group that we called the Ohio Rangers, and we used the Boy Scout handbook, and we passed all the same merit badge tests and all that, and went through all the same kinds of things, but we were not officially members of the Scouts. So we had an organization that we had formed as ourselves that did the same thing. But one of the reasons I admire the Scouts so much and have supported Scouting very much, and some years ago the Scouting people awarded me the Silver Buffalo, which I think is the highest honor they can give in Scouting because of my support for some of their activities, and I'm very proud of that. But what I like about Scouting is it puts the responsibility where it should be. That Scout oath is on my honor.
Yes.
I will do my best to do my duty, and so on through the whole thing. Everything is not we and you and the group and so on. It's my responsibility to take responsible for my own activities, and Scouting teaches that. It's in the Scout oath, and I think is one of the most productive things a kid can learn, that they can't put it off to somebody else. They're on their own, and they'll take responsibility for that. And Scouting also, it puts the kids, you don't have to be a nerd, a bookworm, you don't have to be an athlete, you can be anything, but you're in there with a bunch of kids who are all these different things, and yet you're having to work together on merit badges and projects where you work together no matter what your background is and what your current interests are. It broadens your interests. It's like you're doing research on yourself to find out what your own interests are. And so I've always supported the Scouts because of that. I think it's a good program.
Senator, finally, any other further closing comments on the encouragement for students regarding Space Day?
Well, no, I think that the lesson we try and get across in Space Day, if you can call it a lesson, is that we try and pique the kids' interest or use Space Day as a day of emphasis on letting the kids know how important it is that they keep their interest in math and science, because that's going to do much of what advancing this country is going to be into the future. And, in fact, what the world's going to be in the future as people try and keep that same curiosity that some of the people we admire in the past, like the Wright brothers and people like that were celebrating their flight this year, their 100th anniversary of their flight. People like that, we try and keep the interest of the curiosity of the kids now to that same high degree, so that these people will make their own contributions to our society and to the world in their own time. And some of these kids today that come in with projects that they've been given awards for, that we gave them awards for this morning, it's amazing. These kids are just doing stuff that is outstanding. And if we can just keep that kind of curiosity going, that's a great benefit to this country and to the world.
Well, Senator, I want to thank you very much for making a personal dream of mine come true, and many others listening to this particular program. I salute your service to this country, sir, in both the areas as an astronaut and also as a United States Senator. Thank you very much for your time.
Well, thank you. Appreciate it. Thank you much.
Thank you, sir. This is
Good
Steve
luck.
Cates. Thank you. This is Steve Cates, Dr. Sky, concluding another interesting edition of TeenTalkNetworks.com's The Dr. Sky Show, and also heard here live on News Talk 1010.